time to talk about your health. Living a primal lifestyle.
You know, we have Tom from Tampa on the phone. Hey, Tom. Good morning. It's bright and early now, huh?
Hey, good.
Hi, Tom.
How you guys doing, Nico?
Doing great.
Good. Hey, your newsletter's outstanding, man. I'm telling you, man, it is outstanding. And so is the Primal. I love that stuff. I'd never be without it. I mean, I've been on it now 3-4 months, man. I mean, it's just, I can't get over how good I feel.
Primal Edge is, people are raving about it. People who are trying it, they know because you can feel it.
Would not be without it.
Call now, toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-445-1044. Now your hosts, Nico DeHaan and Paige Clark.
Good morning, I'm Nico DeHaan, and welcome to Living a Primal Lifestyle, where we explore a return to a more balanced, natural, wild world.
To recover our natural health and regain our rights and freedoms. And I'm Paige. Good morning.
Yes, and it's a beautiful day in downtown Clearwater, 79 degrees, sun is shining. Well, it's just about up anyway.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact me at paige@tfnn.com.
And me at nico@tfnn.com, and we are taking your phone calls at 877-927-6648. So
Let's talk a little bit about what happened last week. You know, last week we did kind of a deconstruction of Ben Greenfield's article by the research done by Konstantin Masterstursky,
yes,
who is a Russian researcher, medical writer, researcher. Yeah. And boy, we had some kind of exchange on Facebook. And I think it's a great example, Nico, that we want to remind people here that we are deconstructing things. Not everything we present may be our personal beliefs. Mm-hmm. Things may be our personal beliefs, but we appreciate the interaction. And I like to remind people that what we really are trying to say is we're really focusing on not just a paleo diet or primal. We're a whole foods diet, real foods diet. We're a real foods diet. And what's missing, whether you are an extreme plant-based person or an extreme paleo primal type person, what's missing from either one of those solutions is processed fiber type foods, enriched type of foods. Those are the things that are missing. And what we can see on both of those extremes is tremendous success. I mentioned that in one of the comments that people in a ketogenic diet, which is very low to moderate protein, but generous in fats and in vegetables, has great results, just as a plant-based diet does.
Ben Greenfield is primarily a plant-based diet. He does eat some meat, and he does eat some fish.
And he's a super athlete.
He's a super athlete, and he's a ketogenic. He's on, he's burning fat all the time. Correct. That's his whole goal in the whole thing. And his comments about the... we deconstructed the whole thing, all these little myths that go around. And I looked at the show again a couple of times because I really wanted to clear in my mind that we were discussing somebody else's research and certainly not ours. But what I got out of it by listening again, that there are things that are bad for you in fiber and the things that are good for you in fiber. I don't recommend people using whole grains, breads and pastas for your sources of fiber. I think it should be from fruits and vegetables.
Right.
And let me add that I think they should be seasonal.
Correct.
So you're not going to be juicing 365 days a year, because the juice just wouldn't be there from the fruits. And if you're juicing, you should better put the fiber in there, because then you're really shocking your system. So I think fiber is good for you. I don't think we need to cram ourselves with it. I certainly don't need to supplement it. It doesn't make sense for me to somebody on a fast food diet supplements themselves with fiber.
Yes, or people that, just say, oh, I need to get my whole grains, and they go to the grocery store and buy some, enriched Wonder Bread with whole grains, which is a little bit of a story. But either way, we appreciate that.
Yeah, and people who really don't realize that the most processed food is a grain-based.
Correct.
Always.
Yeah. So I think the great thing is we appreciate it, but I do believe that the work by Konstantin Masterstursky is worth taking a look at, no matter what your opinion is. At one point we all thought the world was flat until other evidence came, although we were talking, some people think it is again.
Still think that's true too.
But we need to keep our minds open and look at some of this research from people that have good, compelling research to back up what they're saying, and then ultimately make your own decision, because we believe the best care is self-care.
No,
when we implement it ourselves. Here's some people taking it into their own hands.
You know, we always talk about that we want you to be on an organic diet. We want our animal food and our vegetable food and our fruits to be organic.
Properly prepared and properly sourced.
And the animals eating their natural diet, too. So our natural diet is really fruits, vegetables, and meats from those types of sources. And this is an article about what happened after one family went organic for just 2 weeks, and it's really astounding.
Yeah, it really, and I think so many people find this out when they do a cleanse. One of the reasons that I enjoy doing cleanses that usually are primarily plant-based cleansing is to clear out a lot of the things that maybe have been there from poorly sourced food. And I think ultimately when you make these changes, you feel tremendous results when you perhaps do a plant-based situation, but coming back to it, there's valuable nutrition that we obtain from our healthy fats.
So this experiment was run in Sweden by a Swedish grocery chain Coop and a Swedish Environmental Research Institute. And they had a 21-day experience with this Palmberg family. They ate a conventional diet, and then each member submitted a urine sample to the laboratory where the analyses were done for insecticides and fungicides and plant growth regulators and all this stuff. And then they switched to an organic diet only, including the soaps, the personal care items, all these things that we talk. And then, of course, they took the samples again.
Yes, they were actually looking at how they were excreting toxins and clearing up their blood and urine, correct?
Right. Yeah, so then after, the results were dramatic. The pesticide loads in the family's members' body dropped in ways that were observable after a single day, according to the report. And by the end of 2 weeks, there were very little evidence of pesticides and other compounds in their urine samples. So that's kind of huge when we often talk about cleansing. Just going organic is cleansing.
It absolutely is.
That's really amazing to me, how you can get results that quickly from just changing things. And this goes to show us, folks, that what we take in is everything to our body.
Today's downstream detoxification is so overwhelmed. And when I mean downstream, I mean the toxins are overwhelming the liver, gallbladder, and our organs of elimination. And that's why many of us are looking to more upstream detoxification of removing toxins that have gotten into our fat-soluble tissues, including our brain, so that we can kind of create a gradient and allow people to detox. But this is what we see over and over again, why people feel so good when they go on a cleanse even, or you know, they may. But this is about a lifestyle here.
Well, at the beginning of the video, Annette Palmberg explains how her family has chosen to eat conventional because it's less expensive for the big family. However, she said that she was reevaluating the trade-off by the end of the experiment. When you hear about this, you think
she saw the results.
Yeah, so you think about your children. I don't want to hold my children back, and isn't that the aim of every parent?
I think so.
You know, we want our children to be better than we were. My dad always said this: I want more for you than I have.
Because you have the ability to look back and see the impact of your choices, and there is an impact on the foods we eat.
That's the only good thing about getting old, they say. You know, you can look back and you can say, okay, I made the right choice here. Well, I screwed up here, but I'm doing okay. You know, that's really what it's about in a sense.
We got to look at the good points too. Yeah,
that's
there are.
For sure.
Well, that's a great thing, and so maybe you might decide to improve your choices. Go organic for 2 weeks and see how you feel. Yep. And that can be whether you include plant-based foods or clean, properly sourced animal foods. Just get rid of the non-food.
Yep. And remind you to pick up our Health Signals newsletter. There's a new one out there right now, and I'm working on the marijuana one starting for next week. So
all right,
stick around, folks. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Living a Primal Lifestyle. You know that we are very passionate about fulvic and humic acids. In fact, we selected it as the base for our nutritional supplement, Primal Edge, but there's a lot of good research that we want to share with you today, and it's important to know where it comes from. A lot of people ask me, well, what is actually fulvic acid?
Well, I should mention that this article came from one of our listeners, Alan.
Oh, thanks, Alan.
Yeah, he sent it to me, and I have another one about fulvic acid, too. And this is really huge because after years of being ignored, gut health is finally getting some of the well-needed attention that we talk about on the show. Many health-conscious people are now understanding the difference between good and bad gut bacteria, how critical it is to keep the digestive system in tip-top shape. In fact, that's really what the show seems to be all about lately, is that we want our gut health to be healthy so we can process these things and get the bad stuff out and
get the good stuff in. And the microbiome is crucial and really a big player in that. And one tool that you may not have heard of in relation to gut health is the use of fulvic and humic acids. And fulvic acid is typically extracted from humic deposits. Humic deposits are very rare and are believed to have been created from the ancient lush plant-based vegetation. They're created by the microbial activity near the surface of the earth. And they're just absolutely what we like to call, I call, nature's miracle molecules in their kind of brilliant chemical geniuses and knowing how to change minerals into forms our bodies can use and absorb.
Yeah, in its natural state, fulvic acid enables plants to absorb and use minerals and other nutrients very efficiently. In fact, it is absolutely essential for plant health. Fulvic acid contains a vast number of naturally occurring bioactive substances.
Yeah, and these include super antioxidants such as SOD, which is superoxide dismutase, our natural body-produced antioxidant, hormones, amino acids, powerful detoxifying enzymes, and natural antivirals, bacterials, fungicides. It just goes on, and you can understand now why we spent our time finding what we believe is the best source to make our product. And we're not trying to promote the product now. We want to educate you on why it's important to understand. Yeah. The power of fulvic acids is they are actually how the plants get their nutrition.
That's right.
The fulvic acids really make the nutrition in the soil absorbable to the plants we eat. One of the reasons that today, because of soil depletion, we're not producing as healthy a plant vegetation of which we're eating.
Yeah, so if you want healthy plants, well, it makes sense you'd want healthy plants because it makes you healthy and makes the animals that are eating the plants healthy.
Well, the PubMed and the research is astounding on the power of fulvic and humic acids for human health, and it's been ongoing, researching the fact that it actually improves the gut health, and that would make sense because the microbes in our gut, think of our gut as our soil, really, you think about it, and this is likely because it contains the nutrients that support the ability of beneficial or good bacteria to form a healthy microbiome in our bodies.
I remember that picture. I remember side by side the picture of our skin, this picture of the soil. And under a microscope, they really look identical with the hair looking just like the grass and the different layers.
That's right.
And we talked at that time about how we kind of dig up the soil and turn it upside down, something we'd never considered doing to our skin.
Right.
And so it shows us that nature, in its own reason for whatever the reason is, it knows what to do. There's nothing really that tills up the soil except some of the animals.
That's
and
right.
they do it for digging for certain things to get that
whole action. I like that whole analogy. I like any time you can see the macrocosm in the microcosm. You can see the bigger picture. So let's go a little bit farther about gut permeability. Leaky gut, as you're hearing in the news, is really a condition in which food and other particles that were not properly digested and absorbed are able to penetrate the gut lining. They can actually create all kinds of issues. I believe that a lot of the inflammation we see is related to this, and it causes multiple health problems. But the consumption of fulvic acids has been shown to reduce the incidence of digestive disorders such as small intestine bacterial overgrowth, or SIBO, and inflammatory bowel disorders. It helps reduce constipation, bloating, diarrhea, and food sensitivities because it really is a substrate that allows our microbiome to flourish and therefore our own health to flourish.
Yeah.
So it's an ancient remedy for poor digestion.
And it just makes so much sense. And if you talk to farmers, they really know about fulvic and humic acids because they try to get this in the soil, and they're always looking for that dark soil that has that in it. And if you go to some of these farms, when we were driving down to the Keys, we went through that Chrome Drive down in Miami. And that is where all those huge plantations are of different trees and shrubbery. And then you see the big stockpile of that black dirt on the side of the road there that they're using.
Oh, yeah,
and that's
they
the
know.
fulvic acid there.
Ancient Ayurvedic medicine has been using shilajit, which is actually a component of fulvic humic. Usually shilajit is about 60 to 80% fulvic humic acids. But, again, this is... quantum medicine today is embracing the wisdom of ancient science, and that's what just thrills us to see this happening. So we're looking at all kinds of benefits of fulvic acid in terms of Alzheimer's disease. We know the connection between the gut and the brain. And there's even a study in 2012 that was published in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease that showed a combination of its antioxidant and nutraceutical properties may potentially enable fulvic acid to protect us against diseases such as dementia and Alzheimer's. I have to tell you, the research on the fulvic humic acid is extensive. The pharmaceutical industries have been trying so hard to figure out how to modify this natural substance for their benefit.
Yeah.
So, it's naturally available today in our nutrition
There
supplements.
are also many other benefits for taking fulvic acid supplements. For example, fulvic acid is an excellent natural chelator. That means it binds easily to nutrients, minerals, and metals to form stable, water-soluble complexes.
That we can detoxify. That's where I refer to it as nature's alchemical genius. It's like a chemistry lab. It understands how to bind. Because of its charge, its negative charge, it binds to positively charged detrimental metals or detrimental compounds and creates the chemical compounds and so forth to make it beneficial to us.
It enables our bodies to absorb the nutrients instead of having them pass through us. Another benefit of taking fulvic acid is that they help us restore the body's optimal pH level. And they do this by alkalizing the body and preventing the formation of the overly acid environment that comes from stress, comes from food, comes from lots of things. And this is kind of its a regulator. So fulvic acid is naturally occurring organic product that is completely non-toxic. But you should also take it, of course, with a health consultant. Talk to your doctor.
Sure.
Talk to your nutritionist about things like this so you can take them the proper way.
Yeah, and should you actually include fulvic and humic? Yes, you should. That's, as we said, that is the core base on which the Primal Edge was built, and we believe that when we were evaluating what is the most significant nutritional challenge we're all facing today is the mineral deficiency as a result of soil depletion. And we need to go to a form that our bodies can easily absorb. So, I hope that you'll continue to check into the research of the power of fulvic and humic acids.
Yeah, I want to go over a few more of the benefits because there's another article here.
Yeah, we'll go over that when we get back from the break.
Yeah, and that's this article.
Improving your gut, skin, and brain with fulvic acid. We'll be right back.
Number here is 877-927-6648. Let's hear first.
Welcome back. We got some questions in the chat room. Someone was asking us...
should I be taking probiotics at the time I'm feeling...
that he ought to be taking an antibiotic. In other words, he's kind of feeling sick, which is the correlation between the two. Well, let me tell you. Let's look at the ideology of the words. Probiotic is pro-life, building life. Antibiotic is anti-life. So you can tell a little bit of what's going on there. And since we know that the health is in the microbiome or the gut, it's crucial that we're constantly looking for good probiotic sources, whether it come from a supplement, but it needs to be a quality supplement because there's so many out there that perhaps aren't viable. And but even more so through our natural fermentation of foods in the environment. And if you have an active infection or something, it's best that you perhaps talk with your doctor. You may need to have an antibiotic, but do you understand there's also natural plants and herbs that have antibiotic properties without the side effects of the pharmaceutical. Antibiotic is a characteristic that we find in natural substances as well as the pharmaceutical. The difference is that a lot of the pharmaceuticals do wipe out the entire probiotic population.
Yeah, so what we're trying to really do is have our body heal itself.
Correct.
So it doesn't make sense to take those antibiotics. It would make more sense to take probiotics. But the lineage,
you may choose. That's the word. It's up to your choice.
But the lineage is a little bit slower with the probiotics, but maybe just a couple of weeks, like we said in the last segment. Mm-hmm. You know, when you start taking organic things happen faster than we think they do.
Right.
So it really depends how far down the chain you are. If you've been eating really crappy food and you're not feeling well all the time, then you really got to set yourself up to a one-year plan of doing this, and using antibiotics really does interfere with that. It may save your life in some cases, though, so you really
the
have to...
The person wants an explanation of echinacea. Echinacea is a wonderful herb that has immune-stimulating properties. It is best used prior to having an insult, an immune system insult, such as a cold or something. Once a cold or something has taken effect, you might want to go to some other little stronger armed herbs, maybe olive leaf extract that neutralizes viral replication, etc. Again, work with someone qualified to give you that information. But let's go on now and talk a little bit more about how to improve your gut, skin, and brain with fulvic acid.
Yeah, this article talks about 7 different benefits and uses for the fulvic acid. Number 1.
Well, that tells you right away that if this is coming from Dr. Axe, he's getting ready to produce a fulvic acid, something we produced 5 years ago, so we were ahead of the curve.
Yeah. First of all, it improves gut health and the immune function, so that's a huge part of the thing. We just talked about probiotics, and this is a huge probiotic.
Well, it is. It really does increase the opportunity for these important components in our systems to act. But let's go over a little bit more about, let's just go through these 7 key things. I think sometimes when we outline these things, it's easier for people to remember.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the fact that it improves immune and gut health and function. These fulvic and the humic acids contain a plethora of nutrients. It's the trace minerals, it's the electrolytes, important bone-building things that build collagen, such as silica, so it can actually be great for your anti-aging arsenal. Prebiotics and probiotics, and these really help to nourish the microbiome.
Yeah. Number 2, it helps boost digestion and nutrient absorption.
Remember I mentioned that it's an alchemical genius. It helps do chemistry. So when you perhaps have I like to explain to people, if you're taking a lot of synthetic supplements, God forbid that you are, it can help break down those compounds and break it down into a more friendly form for the body. That's a really huge benefit.
Yeah. Another benefit of taking fulvic acid as a supplement helps restore the body's optimal pH level by alkalizing the bottle and preventing overly acidic environment. The third one is that it protects the cognitive health.
I really like people understanding the importance of this, because most of us, a lot of people are not aware that we actually can make a great deal of our vitamins in our body. Our bodies are chemical factories themselves, and we can make a lot of our vitamins, but we can't make the mineral resources. We can't make these raw materials, these electrolytes, etc. So we need this, and they're not available in our soil, so we have to go to the right soils. And I think this is important because we mentioned earlier that Journal of Alzheimer's Disease found that the fulvic acid had several antioxidants and properties that help to potentiate the activity to protect cognitive impairment, including Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah, and it really it stops the free radical damage.
A shot a day keeps the mental cobwebs away.
Okay, number 4, improves detoxification.
This is one of my favorites.
Yeah, and as I'm taking my daily saunas, I really feel that the thing's working. I mean, it used to take me 10, 15 minutes to start sweating when I got in there. Boy, I step in there now, it seems like my body responds almost immediately. You know, before 5 minutes is up, I'm dripping already.
Remember what we said, fulvic humic acids are a natural form of chelation therapy. And they're capable, humic acids are capable of binding and breaking down toxins and metals, making that chemical factory go to your benefit. And they can really attach to all the different toxins we're exposed to through the food supply, through prescription medications, household products, toxins, and air pollution. And
number 5, lowers free radical damage and inflammation. We kind of touched on that too. Things like eating processed foods once in a while causes lots of problems in our body because all of a sudden
creates a lot of free radical damage.
Yeah.
And again, fulvic acid contains natural antioxidants that counter the effects of free radicals and helps detoxify the body of many toxins.
Yeah, and also helps to extend the permeability of the life of the cells by providing electrolytes that have numerous functions within the heart, the muscles, brain, and the digestive tract.
And it really helps to improve energy levels and lowers pain. Well, when we become less toxic, many times pain is eradicated, and it helps to lower inflammation levels due to lowering free radical damage.
And that's why the pain is gone.
And it upregulates the electrolytes and nutrients.
Most of the pain that we have results from some type of inflammation, whether it's a inflammation from being hit with something or whether it's that slow inflammation that results of eating food that is really not good for you.
That's right. Here's something, too. Research done by the Doctors Across Borders study found that as natural and organic electrolytes, humic acids activate and energize nearly every single biological process in the body. An electrolyte is soluble in water and works by conducting electrical currents, helping cells survive in the face of damage caused by things like emotional stress. And I think this is really super to hear, because you made the comment about helping to encourage a more alkaline state. One of the biggest acidifiers of the body, folks, you can get a lot of acid in your diet from meat. You know, a lot of the plant-based people that overdo grains, nothing more acidic than grains, or nothing more acidic than,
meat.
you know, than conventional meat particularly.
Right.
But when you have fulvic acids, they really help. But the most acidic thing that happens is emotional thoughts and feelings. So that's something to think about.
Now, another subject on here is fulvic acid versus folic acid. And folic acid...
Well, that's two separate things, guys. It's the spelling, Fulvic, and then folate, or a folic. And, you know...
Folate occurs naturally in folate foods, especially vegetables, whole grains, and beans, etc.
Well, I want to make sure people understand
Yeah.
that, and that's something we might need to come, because we're coming up on a break, but... You know, when you see the word folic acid, that is a word for a synthetic form of the B family.
Yep.
Folate is the active natural form, and fulvic acid is natural. So I know we get confused. If you have any questions, give us a call. We'll come right back. We get a short break.
Yeah, welcome back. And we wanted to really clear up the fulvic and the folate.
The fulvic, and folate. Folks,
Folate, yeah.
look. You know that we're very passionate about people doing the best that they can to get the natural forms, and we get most of our natural vitamins and minerals from healthy foods, whole foods, real foods, whether they be animal-based or plant-based. But I want people to understand that folic acid is a synthetic coal tar derivative form of the B vitamins. And it's important that we start to understand that we have a great deal of the population that has a gene SNP called methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase defect that makes it very difficult for them to metabolize folic acid. They need more reduced forms, or they need authentic real forms of the vitamin folate, which is B9. So I really want people to understand that when you see the words folic acid, it's quite possible that that may not be an absorbable format for many, many people. So it's much more preferable to get natural folate or folinic acids that are more easy. So these have nothing to do with fulvic. Fulvic is, you know, most people assume that folate and folic acid are the same, but they're not, as I just mentioned. But folic acid is related to these minerals in the soil. So I wanted to make sure that's clear.
Yep. So I wanted to cross over to Florida and what's happening in South Florida, in Miami, talking about the mosquitoes and the microphilia, and are these connected, aren't these connected? I mean, there's a lot of discussion going on in the blogosphere, especially from sources like Argentina, you know, the South American countries.
And Brazil. Where incidentally, where this actually came up, but is it the mosquitoes? Or is it the pesticides that they were bombarded and dosed with?
Lots of evidence seems to show that it is caused by chemical and pharmaceutical industry.
So we're talking about microencephaly, which is basically the small brain structure defect that is just a horrifying tragedy. And I think we want to share our opinion on some of the information that we're reading here. This comes from GreenMed Info, a very trusted source for data on natural health, with the world's largest database on natural solutions and so forth. They spend a great deal of time, you know, analyzing research on the impacts of natural substances as well as the unnatural and pesticides. And doctors and researchers say the widespread use of the toxic chemicals heavily promoted by the chemical and pharmaceutical industry to combat mosquitoes is not preventing the spread of Zika virus, but is putting at risk the health of the general population.
Yeah, and there's still not a 100% certainty that Zika is actually causing this itself, as far as microphilia.
I'm going to express my opinion that I believe the Zika virus has nothing to do with the microencephaly. That is my opinion based on the research that I've done.
That's kind of what these articles that we're talking about say. There's really been no direct connection between the two. Zika's been around for ages and
never produced any of these effects. But what is common?
More flu-like symptoms.
Kind of like the chicken and the egg.
Which came first?
Yeah, which came first, the microencephaly?
The road came first.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, across the road to
Right.
lay his egg. Anyway.
Well, the question is, where we're seeing this, what is also common is that these areas were heavily sprayed. So now we're using spraying here in South Florida. I mean, I think Aaron at Health Nut News, Mercola's girlfriend, has been heavily promoting the spraying that's been going over in South Florida. And again, there's been no evidence really that the
So
Zika...
could the spraying actually be compounding the thing? I mean, this is really
Right,
a
we may
paradox
very
in a
well
way.
see some microencephaly cases over there. Well, was it the mosquitoes or was it the spraying? And I think we
So-
have to take a look at the
And
evidence, folks.
Yeah, and when we're talking about spraying and the pesticides, this is just a compounding of it. For years and years, certain people have been compounding it, and then all of a sudden you get that other whack, and maybe a mosquito does bite you. I don't know. And it helps.
Let's go in. Let's dive in.
Okay.
The article explains how concerns about the spread of dengue fever and the Zika virus and the microencephaly increase in Brazil are being exploited by pesticide firms, and I want to add my own word, and by vaccine manufacturers. So you can see that whenever there is a problem and a reaction and the fear that's created, there are always industries that benefit. Microencephaly is a birth defect in which the baby is born with abnormal small head, and evidence is beginning to emerge that suggests the Zika virus may have a role in some cases. Aranda reports the concerns of research that pesticides are probably more likely a factor.
Yeah. Between the notion that these cases are solely caused by Zika and the opposing notion that Zika is not responsible, there are many plausible intervention hypotheses that include the possibility that Zika is a cofactor, together with other agents such as pesticides, or that Zika is responsible for some, but not all of the cases, and that pesticides may be responsible for the other cases. All possible hypotheses should be explored, and firm conclusions should only be drawn on the basis of evidence of the casualty.
Yeah, so a climate is being created of fear around the Zika virus, and it's not yet justified by the state of the evidence, folks. The resulting panic is being exploited by corporate interests that are indifferent to the risks of exposing people to the mass spraying of inadequately tested pesticides. As we know, that's a horrible story in itself, how few of our hundreds and thousands of pesticides that we have actually even been tested, many of which are endocrine disruptors, reproductive toxins, and linked to birth defects.
Yeah, and there was a lot of other articles. Argentine and Brazil doctors named larvicide as potential cause of microphilia. Microcephaly, excuse me. Brazilian government denies the link between the two. Zika, microcephaly, and pesticides, half-truths, hysteria, and vested interest.
And what did
article.
Brazil public health researchers really say about the Zika pesticides and birth defects? So I encourage people to think about that there's always concerns for bites and so forth, but I think let's take a look at a natural approach to protect you.
Well, just first of all, there's another report here that from Argentine Doctors Organization, the Physicians into the Crop-Sprayed Towns challenges the theory that Zika virus epidemic in Brazil is caused by...
They're realizing that they're challenging that information based on the fact that they've been heavily sprayed. And I think we're seeing tons of that information.
And they're really talking about this one... this
pyroproxyfen.
Yeah.
Pyroproxyfen is the chemical that was sprayed heavily in the areas that incidentally have this defect.
Yeah, and these are state-controlled programs that started about 10 years ago. And and the other thing was a lot of pregnant women were deficient in magnesium and things because of the food that they were eating. There were some chickens that were tainted in that same area years ago.
Well, epigenetics.
So there's a lot of things.
Epigenetics is the study of above the genes. Epi means above the genes. And when we see a defect, what we know is that there's something not right in the soil or in the microbiome or in the basics. So is it the pesticide alone that might cause this, or the toxins the person is exposed to, or were they already deficient in nutrients, say like folic acid, the B vitamin responsible for cell division? And I believe that it's an orchestration. It's an orchestration of not having enough of what we do need and having too much pesticides of things that we don't need. And then awry happens, and the epigenetic situation is not the ideal is expressed. And we want to make sure we have lots of good stuff so we can express our genes optimally.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the show, folks. I wanted to acknowledge one of the dinners here mentioned that the Stereo B spacecraft, we have 3 satellites, one on Earth and Stereo B and A, which are behind the sun, that orbit around the sun just like our Earth does. So we can look behind the sun and see what's coming.
Right.
What's going. And this is important because the coronal holes are the things that come around.
And this one has been offline for 2 years.
Yeah, about 22 months, and all of a sudden it came back on.
Wow.
With no explanation. And so now we have another view of that departing sun, which is
Well, those
really
of us
important.
with a curious mind might think there was a reason it was turned off because there was something passing that NASA didn't want us to see.
Well, that could be.
Could or couldn't be, but it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, it's at least it gives us another view of the sun, and it's important because the sun is going into that grand minimum, and now we're seeing much, much more than we've ever done before with what's happening on the Earth. We're in fact seeing things in the sky now that we probably have never seen for at least a few hundred years, maybe thousands of years.
I'd like to really do next show on a lot more of that information.
Okay,
I
I
sent you a couple of articles myself because I really turned to Nico to really explain a lot of this. But I really believe this is based in us finding the ancient wisdom and applying it now to our world. And I think that when we take a look at the past, hopefully we're going to learn from the past.
Well, not only that, too, we have this other article just to Germany is requiring citizens to stockpile supplies in case of a catastrophe. So they're requiring and this is a requirement, every citizen has to stock 10 days worth of food and 5 days worth of water. I don't know how they're going to police that.
Now, see, in this country, we have a lot of media sources that spend a tremendous amount of time ridiculing and making fun of people that prep, calling them preppers or tin hatters or whatever they do. I think it's actually prudent. I think it's wise and smart to be prepared in the event that something did happen. And we're not talking just about a war or something. We're talking about the potential of it being something as much as maybe an outage. We rely so heavily on our electronic world, on our connectedness, that a slight blurb from maybe a coronal mass ejection could wipe out our grid, and then where would we be? As we've seen in other research, that your neighborhood store would be completely depleted within less than 2 hours.
Yeah. What are you going to do then?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know your neighbors. So.
Tell us about this picture. This is
picture on the telestrator is interesting because, of course, we know that lightning strikes between the clouds and the Earth. And the electric universe says, of course, that the energy is coming from space. And here's an indication of these sprites, which our ancient ancestors really talked about a lot, and we don't see a lot of it here. We see it from the space station sometimes. But here's a clear indication of a sprite that they call these, that comes from space and hits the clouds. And this is where our energy comes from. And we now believe that not only does the energy come from there, a lot of the water comes from space.
Comes from space.
Yeah. Because
wow.
we've got certain molecules coming from the sun, some coming from the earth. They meet in the middle and they create water. So hydrogen and oxygen. So pretty cool stuff. We really didn't want to dive into this.
Well, I want to really finish up because we only got a minute. I like to have when we talk about a problem, I want to give them a solution.
Yeah. So we're talking
and
about the oils.
Many of you know that I'm a clinical aromatherapist and certified aromatherapist, and I believe the power of essential oils can really help transform your health. So while we're looking at all this information, many people are being cautioned into avoiding mosquitoes, protecting themselves from mosquitoes. But what do we have? We're seeing neighborhoods that are being sprayed with toxic chemicals that we really don't know the long-term effects, or even just using commercially available deterrents like DEET, which does work in repelling mosquitoes. However, the potentially toxic chemical is not without its own risks, producing similar effects to nerve gas. So as an aromatherapist, what we can do is use a number of different chemicals, but I want to give you a couple that rated highest.
Before we do that, I want to mention that there's a registration here on evorevolution2.com. You can register for this talk.
That's a conference that's going on, but the 3 oils that work best are Litsea, rosewood, and geranium, and they like a base of lemongrass.
We're out of time.
See you next time.
You're watching Tiger TV.